Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today we're back for more Andor. When too much Andor is barely enough, don't worry about 3 episodes a night. Give us 6 episodes a night. Give us 9 episodes a night. We'll find a way to watch it. We'll bend to your rules to keep this show going.
No,
We
we
don't
won't.
care.
3 is the max. I
It's-
can't do anymore.
To be honest, 3 is doing
3
my
is
head
the
in.
limit.
It's nearly ready to break me. It's too much Andor.
I quite like it.
Yeah,
We'll get on to
Thurbon's
that.
getting two watches. Are you doing any work, buddy?
Contrarian over here, but let's go. We got a full deck. We got a full deck of friends here tonight. We've got Matt Mohl, we've got Catherine Kneen, and making his first stop in, we've got Matthew Thurbon in his Star Wars Spelt Out Japan exclusive beanie and his Rick McCallum shirt. If you're watching this on video,
And Liverpool.
This wasn't
Okay,
discussed at the
Fuck.
pre-production meeting.
I had to get that in. It's been a great week.
We all know
Liverpool won the league.
Conference League is the real deal. Let's not get into football. We'll find the rabbit hole.
And then we got 3 episodes of Andor to talk about. Pretty happy with them. So let's go.
Yeah, well, let's rock and roll. But yes, this schedule is taxing.
It's tough.
It's taxing. And
It's a Star Wars triathlon.
it's running a Star Wars triathlon every week. The swimming, the cycling, and then just you think you've got through
And the running.
and the running. Speaking of the running times this week, Mohl, that's a great segue. We're not going to do better than that.
56 minutes an episode. That's the thing. It's not like Bad Batch episodes, but you can just smash out 3 in an hour. This is like watching a movie in a day, like a Lord of the Rings movie.
It's like wading through treacle, isn't it? Like it's sweet and delicious, and you wouldn't have it any other way. But you've just got to slowly.
As Rick McCallum would say, it's just so dense.
Yeah, the thing I have, obviously, I love all the Andor. However, I just want to sink in and savor it and really, num 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 num, getting all the details and having the 3 episodes. I mean, I've only watched them once before we've come on to record because you've got time in the evening to get once through and I don't have time to watch them after I go home from work. So yeah, it's I want the one a week because you're right, 56 minutes is a lot to take in and really chow down on.
Yeah,
I was going to say that I've heard from people who've seen the 12 episodes that this particular arc is the kind of slowest build-up, and I would say that we'll get onto it, but episode 4 is kind of like the very, very slow-moving thing, and I don't think there's a lot to speculate too much about it. It's just fairly dialogue heavy. There's no big action scene, and I think it's good that we got. If we had just got this episode 4, I might have been disappointed. But because we got 4, 5, 6, I'm pretty happy with the whole arc so far. So
I always forgot that I was going to make that Andor T-shirt that just said Andor slower, more intense.
Yes,
I feel like maybe there's still a window to do that, but yeah, I look
2 more weeks.
Yeah, I think I'm in your camp, Catherine. I've definitely got more time to watch it than you do as well. But I miss the sort of like what's going to happen. What does this mean? What do they? It feels like it's all being because in these arcs they're all self-resolving. So you can't like we got to the end of the last arc and they get ferried off and they escape the planet and stuff. And there's a little bit of kind of like what's going to happen next. But because we know it so far ahead, there isn't. It's not like a next episode where you kind of go, oh, all right, well, what does this mean for Cyril and Deidre? And, he's underground. Is he effing them over? What's he doing? What's the setup? Is Andor going to go on the mission? It's like, well...
For me, it's less about speculating what's coming next. For me, it's about really looking at all the details within the one episode. And each episode, each scene, each piece of dialogue... what's going on in the background, all of that is what I'm wanting to take in. So you're talking about episode 4 and I don't know where that ends. And for me, I'm finding that disappointing that I
Yeah.
I
You're
can't.
rushing.
It feels like a rush.
Mm.
It doesn't feel like I can properly sink into this because you're right, it's dense. There's a lot of things going on, and I wrote on Blue Sky about that there's so many details in here, and
So
the production design is gorgeous, and sitting through all three at once, we can't fully appreciate every single aspect of it.
Do you think Gilroy's pissed?
Yes.
so
But I can see the other side because I think the I think the reasoning to hit hard and hit impact and make a splash and keep people talking, and I think that has actually been very successful. I think the show has captured imagination and it's
yeah.
captured the audience for this month. It's Andor month. This is all people are talking about. Last of Us 2 is out. No one's talking Last of Us 2. No one's really talking about other stuff. Everyone's talking Andor. So the purpose
Yeah.
of hit hard, hit fast, keep the attention, and do it cement its legacy, I suppose. But
I can only
Could have
talk
held
about
the press for 12 weeks
I don't know,
or 9
or
weeks if you
a
wanted to
lot of
put
the
the
other ones,
first arc out.
Acolyte and Skeleton Crew both had drop offs and didn't maintain. But different shows. But
that's what I was going to talk about, the drop off. So like, I can speak from my experience from my family. So Toby isn't watching it. It's not for him. 12-year-old. He prefers Skeleton Crew. My wife Pip and Luke are really into it, but I think they kind of said to me they would be disappointed if they just saw episode 4. They want to just absorb it all at once, and it's very different. I think the 3 episodes at once would bring in newer fans or more casual fans and be more intense.
I mean, we're
Whereas
hamstrung
I
where
think
we
we're
have to watch
but
it
we're
straight
talking
away.
about us as like
Yeah.
super fans that want to just like just let it all sink in and you know,
We've kind of
dig deeper into
we've
it. But
hamstrung ourselves because we've given ourselves an obligation to talk about it the day after it comes out,
Yeah.
or I've made
yeah,
you guys do that.
so
I'd say with casuals, then having 56-minute episodes and putting 3 out at once is difficult. Then makes it
Well, they're just not
an,
like we're
a
not doing
mountain
no,
to climb.
They're probably
no,
not.
no,
Though.
but they're probably
watching on
not.
Wednesday and Friday
The
and Sunday.
casuals are probably watching it one day at a time,
Yeah.
or maybe, you know, a couple, and then they'll be ready by next week.
That's literally
And
what
I
we're doing at
think
our
it's a
house.
good,
Well, I'm watching it with
and I
Kat,
think
and
it's
we're
a good
doing
compromise. Like, and I totally agree. Like, I'm thinking about comparing it to, say, Stranger Things. That is a complete, like, Netflix releases a whole season. You watch them, you don't get to talk about them, and it's done. And you know, I think this is,
That would
for
suck.
me, it's a bit of a that would suck.
Well,
And
the
I
whole
think
thing
this is a
come
good
out would be. I
compromise.
mean, the whole thing would be the whole thing.
No, I'd be totally.
It puts you out of business, Josh.
Oh yeah,
I'd be totally
look
against
at my
that.
beautiful. Look at my
all at once.
surrounds. Look at the room you had
Thriving-
to sleep. Your room you had
thriving
to
business.
sleep in. Yeah.
But Catherine,
broadcasting from the room Matt Mohl slept in a few weeks ago.
I was going to say, Catherine, you've always got that geek pod to actually just take it slow. We could, you know, get
It'll
some
come
guests
back. The
on, do
full-
one episode at a time.
If you want
The
the real,
full
if you want the real
blow-by-blow.
breakdown, listen to that Geek Pod in about 3 or 4 weeks' time when Catherine goes back and does the deep dive with some professionals. But like, let's not shy away from the fact that the show is firing. It is delivering on every, and it's definitely a different vibe, and it's not. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Catherine. It's not building and hitting hard. It's not building Aldani heist, boom, boom. We've got a big heist, boom, boom, one way out. There is stuff in the final one that does ramp it up, but we're not hitting with big explosions with a big sort of finale in the thing. It is a build. The whole thing feels like one big build, even though it's taking place over many years.
It's the build to Rogue One. It's not a build within the arc so much as a build over all the arcs to Rogue One. Building, this is the rebellion. This is Cassian. It's building what we see in Rogue One. It's saying, it's telling us, okay, this is why we don't see these characters in Rogue One who would be part of the rebellion. This is why Cassian says, you're not the only one who's lost everything. you know, building Mon Mothma, building, why she decides to do what she's obviously going to do and leave the Senate and join the rebellion full time. It's showing how rebellion builds from these disparate cells into a military force that we see in Rogue One and A New Hope. Because like last week we saw those idiots on Yavin 4.
Yeah, the dipshits, yeah.
And, last season we saw Saw's group, which were more organised, and we heard about lots of other different cells. This week we saw Saw's group, and they've gone a step further, or Saw's gone a step further in that paranoia, and he's picked up one of the dipshits. Is that just their group name now?
Which dipshit did he pick up? Was the engineer one of the dipshits? Was he?
Yeah, yeah.
The beard.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think he was.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
He had a weird name as well. It was like Droopy or
Flutie.
Droopy
Flutie.
Jeez,
Flutie.
Not bad for one watch.
Yeah,
on my phone.
Yeah.
Mohl, what are you vibing on Ghorman? Would be a place you'd like to take the family on holiday? It's a very nice European-looking destination here. We're very Ghorman-centric this week.
I'm getting a real Italian vibe out of Ghorman. It seems like a city of Milan with their arts and crafts. And my wife has a morbid fear of spiders, so we are definitely not going there. And she wouldn't even eat the spider lolly, she said. She actually watched more of Andor than I did. I fell asleep last night because I was absolutely wrecked from getting up at 4:30 for the Arsenal game. But and then I fell asleep in Andor about 11 o'clock at night. But I caught up today, thank God. I mean, yeah, it's definitely putting out a great story. I was like, surely Cyril doesn't give up the only girl that could ever like him other than his mum. They had me on my toes there.
He's playing the long game. Yeah, so we could start there. I mean, it's a little all over the... Again, we're not speculating. We're not going to recap it. But I mean, Shill's an interesting one because we basically just start with him and he's on Ghorman and he's got himself a little bit of authority and but there's no Dedra. So he's kind of just... He just wants so badly to be included that he's willing to just sort of play the long game, really.
It cracked me up that we see, the video call with him and his mother, and then we see the Ghorman front listening in on this conversation, and even they're like, his mother's terrifying.
Yeah, they're like, dude, this woman is messed up.
See, whenever they say the Ghorman front, I always think Ghorman People's Front or People's Front of Ghorman.
Well, Ghorman is a famous brand, a famous fashion brand in Australia.
I was going to say that. Yeah,
Ghorman. Half her wardrobe is Ghorman, so she's just watching the whole time.
Same as Pip as well. It's like
Ghorman Garn. She's just like, I just like that they're talking about Ghorman. She's like, yeah, I wear Ghorman all the time.
Yeah, Pip's got a Gorman raincoat as well. Yeah,
she's so much Ghorman. I've got so many Ghorman gift vouchers before. It's crazy. Sorry, Matt.
Do the Ghorman massacre. You should do the Ghorman massacre to any jumper you don't like.
Yeah. I reposted a Ghorman, a very niche Ghorman joke today on Blue Sky. So have a look for that one.
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, Cyril. So basically, I mean, everyone who's watched this, but he's essentially he's got his own little little group of bookkeeping things there. He's basically in a position where he thinks that the rebels are getting in touch with him because they want to find out what's going on, what they're building in the middle of town. And he kind of plays along, and he plays along really well. Like, he actually does it quite convincingly. And then when the ISB turn up to raid the place and he cracks it and does all of that, he really sells it. I wasn't really buying it. Did anybody buy it from the start? I think the only thing was that they'd spoken about when we went to the panel. I know you were in the big room, Catherine, as we've said, but they did sort of say that they've established that they've got a relationship, but essentially it fractures. And I was kind of like, this seems too early in this.
Yeah. But he's planted there and he's reporting back to Deirdre, but obviously they're not Partagas and Deirdre are not telling him what the overall grand scheme is about what's happening on Ghorman. So he's oblivious to the overall master plan with the Calcite and all that kind of stuff. But he's kind of like the little spy on the ground.
He's told to sniff out the rebellion, basically, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And they're using the mum, saying, "Oh, his mum is just so much punishment that we'll get them to listen in and then pinpoint him as the weak link on Ghorman."
Yeah.
Catherine, do you think Deidre still cares about him? Feels like she's kind of just I don't know,
using him.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like there was a genuine connection a year ago, and she was really looking. I don't think it was always like I'm using him as a means to an end in the long game, but maybe in the subsequent year, it's kind of like, it's actually kind of nicer not having him around, or am I just so hyper focused on this task that
there's a bit of convenience there. She probably doesn't fully understand what a loving relationship is. Neither probably does Cyril. Can I just say I am so glad they did not show us anything physical happening between them because that was yuck.
What are you talking about? The frigid kiss at the door.
It wasn't quite as sexy.
They had 1 hour, just 1 hour.
It wasn't quite as sexy as the Bix and Cassian sort of intimate touching, which was very
ASMR.
Can I just say, Cassian and Bix kind of slow dancing. So I'm getting my kind of dirty dancing. And there was talk of Imperial Ball. So Tony Gilroy, you are doing what I wanted.
But like poor Cyril, I mean, I feel a little bit of sympathy for Cyril because he's gone from one controlling woman to another. Like he's a little bit
beat down on him though.
Yeah, but still, she's using him. So it's all a bit awkward, and he likes to be controlled, I would say.
I have to say that, sorry to interrupt, that Cyril's a much better cook than Cassian is, though. Cyril's knife skills were exquisite, and I don't know if you can see in the episode when I think Cassian's chopping some vegetables, and in the supplementary video, there's a closer shot of him chopping his knife technique. If someone watches lots of cooking videos, Cyril is way superior.
Have you seen Diego doing like actual cooking on that show he did where he gets like a whole lot of people in and they have a meal and talk about really in depth controversial
so
topics?
Right there? Yeah, okay.
Maybe because he also gets in like professional chefs and they cook together.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's it. But I did notice. I'm like, I think Cyril's got the superior knife skills there, at least to chop a vegetable. But so essentially he infiltrates in with the local, the French Viva la Revolution, the beret crew, very very French. I saw somebody talking about like, it's the French, blah 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 blah. Thinking in Andor, and some reply going, oh no, it's more Swiss. And I nearly replied going, I think the berets say otherwise on that one. It was even the language.
In the video afterwards, what is it called? Declassified video afterwards, they talked about that it's a French-inspired language, but Ghorman is actually a new language they created with like French intonation and phrasing, but it's completely not French.
And they use French actors.
Yeah.
They use French actors, but it's the same
French
sort of...
Man, that dude with the beard. And, he was doing the thing with the arm and the, guy with the beard. He was the Frenchest man who ever Frenched. He was Frenching that big time. But but no, it was interesting. So effectively, they're a well-to-do planet that's always been fiercely independent and... had a little bit of a run-in with the Empire years earlier where Tarkin decided to park his car on top of everybody, which apparently was in canon, was in an EU story, or was the old version of the Ghorman massacre or something, perhaps? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was the old version in the EU or somewhere that was it. So I really did like that they've worked that into the story that it still exists, that Tarkin, just landed his ship on top of 500 people. And so that still exists is a really, really smart use of existing ideas out there. So
And it
well
just
done,
works into
Tony. Well done, Pablo.
Yeah, and the distrust. It even just builds into the distrust, and probably even why the people are even more independently focused as they were before, and things as well. So, yeah, essentially they're in there. They've got a little front going on, and while this is all going on in the background, what's the name of the little wiener guy who's in the ISB? Who's the is it Yo the
Lonnie?
Lonnie's mate.
Lonnie.
Lonnie's mate, or
no, Lonnie.
Lonnie Young.
Lonnie himself. Yeah.
So Mohl, he's been sort of, he got wind of that Ghorman's in play and that Deidre's running it basically, and goes to Luthen and so
spills the beans.
Yeah,
spills the beans.
He also then finds out that Dr. Gorst is also
the Emperor's new toy.
The Emperor's new toy, and he's sort of being a part of that, so he could have passed on to Luthen about Dr. Gorst as well.
Yeah, well, we should touch on, because I mean, after last week, we talked about Bix and everything that she's had to go through, and then go through a whole bunch of stuff again, and then we sort of said, she'll be ready to crack some skulls and stuff this next arc. She'll be committed to the cause, but it's not actually the case at all. She's actually kind of damaged, and struggling and being shipped off to a safe house and having a bit of a hard time about it, Turbo.
Yeah, and having some of those blue drops of whatever. I think it helps her sleep, or
drugs.
Helps her sleep. I don't know, some sort of spice. Some sort of spice. But no, she obviously wants to forget, and I think the blue drops are helping her forget and helping her sleep, but she's not really herself as well. So she's sort of repressing that fight that she might have had out of the last episode, out of the revenge of that creepy Imperial guy. And she seems to have retreated
as well, because she has that sort of thing at the start where Cassian shot a soldier that they basically captured or whatever. So it seemed to be that she's actually been coming out on missions, but she hasn't quite.
She's got PTSD over it. She's not quite all in and comfortable with the level of what they're doing. Yeah. Whereas Cassian and neither is Cassian either. Like, I think that's where we're sort of going to get to. Where what's the guy in Rogue One that he shoots in the first 2 minutes? Just like, oh well, you're Tevik. He's going to get to that level where he's like, all right, the mission is the paramount cause. Do whatever it takes. And you literally see that he's just not all in yet. Luthen's like, is this your best? This is the best of you?
Well, we talked about when it was, I just thought it was interesting that he was living with Brasso and all those guys. It wasn't like he was just a full-time, I don't know what I thought. I just thought maybe he was sleeping on Luthen's couch the whole time and was full-time in this thing, but it kind of means you just go back and forth. And it's interesting because we find out that Luthen's crew hasn't really expanded that we know about. It's still pretty much the same core. It's Val and Cinta and Cassian and the same
Wilmon.
And Will, he's got Wilmon as well, but he hasn't got in the subsequent year. It's not like he's got 30 people under him now. He just seems to have the same core people.
Yeah, see, I don't think his little core group expands, but he has connections to all the other groups, and which he will then funnel in intel and money to, like Saul's group or some of the other groups, and he's interested to see whether the Ghorman front is worthwhile of connecting up with them, or whether they're a risk.
Number 2, I've forgotten her name, who was awesome in this arc actually.
Claire.
I mean, she's also just like, hey, like we got a lot of plates spinning here at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to keep on top of this, but I've got to run the shop, and I've also got to do all this other stuff. But so
and she's tapping a lot of like different sort of she's got little bugs out there. She's it looks like she's on this sort of DJ
I know.
machine.
Where's
She's
the
going through
where's the where's the meme of Clarice DJ's
all
like a
through
man
going through all the recordings or
or the
the
John
bugs
Howard
and
meme. We
voice.
can look that up. We won't repeat it
Yeah.
here, but yeah,
She's very, very busy.
She was awesome. She was close to MVP this arc. I thought that essentially he tries to get Cassian to go to Ghorman to see if he can make contact with this front, and it's sort of playing into the hands of what the ISB want to do. They want them to stir up some shit and cause some trouble and things. And we get a very swooshy Cassian Andor. What was his spy name? Can you remember? It was like something Sky, Varian Sky, or some sort of
Varian Sky, yeah, Varian Sky.
Okay.
And he gets he goes to that little sort of some sort of shop in Coruscant to get his kind of cosplay for Varian Sky.
Interrupts the lady and the other guy like getting down in the back room kind of stuff. Like they can kind of hear.
Yeah, but the other guy looked like a shirtless Dolph Lundgren alien type thing. It looks like he looked like something out of Guardians of the Galaxy or something.
I did like the lady who came out. She just, she's kind of quickly put her gown on. She's kind of just like, what you want, She's just like that proper East Ender sort of shopkeeper sort of hassle me sort of thing. But what did you think of Cassian's digs, Mohl? His new gear, his fancy pants.
Looking nice and purple, very very schmickaroony. And that was the good because that was they gave us that little still picture of him with that little Cheshire grin, like 6 months ago. Like that was one of the stills.
Was that in the first teaser trailer we saw in
London?
Yeah, that we saw in London. I'm pretty sure that we saw him in that
with the sunglasses
persona.
as well. All those, yeah.
And we all speculated at that point that was like a Coruscant outfit. So it's sort of good that we were all wrong. But he looked pretty, as he said.
Of course.
No, it was good. It was sort of like this. It was a bit of a different mission for him, really, wasn't it? It was really just to sort of go and gather intel. But he makes
and evaluate them.
Yeah, he makes kind of.
He didn't
kind of
really.
Like, I'm not really particularly impressed with these people, and I think that's a kind of a dumb mission. It's just gonna, and kind of was kind of right. It's just like they're just gonna make a lot of noise for not a lot of return.
Yeah, and he had the points of that they're stealing this stuff, but they're staying there. Like it's not like something that he would be involved in, where steal something and then get out of
Everyone
Dodge.
knows where your meetings are, like they're public meetings and things. It's not like it's
and probably everyone can sort of know who's involved in a lot of ways. Everyone can sort of guess at
Yeah, but Luthen kind of
the locals anyway.
I mean, Luthen kind of knows that, and he's just banking on it, really, isn't he? He's just kind of like, well, if they blow up, they blow up bright. So if worse comes to worse, it's good for us regardless.
I also think he was sort of putting Cassian through some sort of rebellion litmus test to see how he sort of responds to this thing, if it will help enhance him in the cause and take him to the next level. And he also basically failed though. Like he's like, it's not good enough for you. You're not all in. Yeah, I think it was a real big test from Luthen to Cassian.
It was a sort of a different way of thinking, wasn't it? That again, he was thinking of the mission in hand, of like success. What was the success of the mission? And it was probably not going to be a success. And Luthen's kind of like, well, you're not really thinking about the big picture here, which is the success is not really what it's about. It's about mobilizing and getting an ally. And if it all goes bad, it's good for us.
I get the feeling he assessed the situation and didn't want to be a scapegoat. Like he didn't want to be the sacrificial lamb for that. So
it seemed they'd already made up their mind on what they want to do with Ghorman. It was literally just a meaningless expedition for him anyway. Because him and Claire talk about it, saying, we'd already decided.
But then he sent, so basically, Cassian goes, and sort of while this is going on in the background, Bix is sort of slowly falling to pieces, really, and but which was quite interesting. Like Luthen turns up to sort of check on her and like seems like genuine. So it's kind of weird because it's his normal sort of tough persona, but it's not. He's like the way he talks to other people, like the ISB spy was just kind of like on him the whole time. Like he's still showing that persona, but he's softened to her. Like he actually seemed to genuinely care about her well-being.
But when you think about it, Bix was the original contact on Ferrix, so that we don't really know how far back their relationship is. So Bix may have been his contact for a lot of time. So maybe he's just maybe there's some backstory we don't really know about.
But also
Cassian,
she is useful. Like she's a good mechanic. She's probably the one who taught Ghorman the skills that he's currently using. Also, she can be used in missions. If she's not well, also Cassian is less likely to want to participate in things. So having Bix in a good place, or at least a stable
Semi-useful.
place, is useful for Luthen. It's a ruthless way of looking at things, but in the end, that's what a good manager does. That the well-being of their staff isn't for the good of the staff; it's for the good of the company.
But that was also a risk because he went behind Cassian's back. So Cassian just showed up unannounced to his gallery, and there was a really, really loud doorbell. It was like really piercing. It seems like a very not a very subtle doorbell for that place.
Does he live there as well?
It's like hot
as well. I never really considered that he just lives there as well.
It's a safe house, so they're currently
the shop though. Like because
the gallery shop.
Yeah, he turns up at like the middle of the night, and he looks like he gets him out of bed or something, basically.
Yeah, it seems like he lives there because there's a scene where Clay's operating things early in the morning, and he's sort of getting up and starting his day. So he lives above the shop, as it were.
Yeah, 2 up, 2 down kind of thing. Yeah, interesting. So Cassian, he kind of comes back and he's like, this thing sort of stinks. I don't really love it, and also you've been going to see Bix behind my back. I'm not doing this anymore. And so he sends the next team in. He sends in the next wave, which is Valencinta. Get back together, and quite fascinating. The Cinta sort of says that she'd had an accident or something, Mohl, so she'd been out of action.
Yeah, and that was the reason why she had been so closed off and unavailable, and
so
Val got her.
I assume that's post her kicking, what's his face out of the.
She might have hurt herself killing that family on Aldhani, and then needed some time to recover.
I just thought
no, but post killing Tay, like obviously maybe something happened with Tay we don't know about that traumatized her even more, and maybe that was an accident. I don't know.
Kicked him out the window.
Well, the other thing is, did Val?
Is Tay dead?
Tay's dead.
Tay's gone.
He's
got to be gone.
He's real dead.
Mon Mothma doesn't even mention him, or
well, it's a year later. She's not going to. I mean, this is the thing. It's like you move on. She's not going to be going. Well, I was just thinking about how Tay fell out.
How I killed my friend.
Mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, and this arc, you don't really see the underlying true nature of Mon Mothma. You see her mask of being a senator and going to parties and everything. You don't actually. I don't think there's any scene where Mon Mothma is being herself. So she's not vulnerable. She's really just she's in the Senate trying to get votes, and she's at these parties going about, with,
they sort of
Perrin.
Mentioned that there's a bunch of. Did they mention that there's a bunch of new senators that they've kind of just bust in a bunch of like pro-Empire senators because they're sort of.
Yeah, I think they said 80 senators, 80 new senators,
and all these new parties for new senators, and then they're in the Senate and just like, yeah, the Empire rules, woo woo.
Yeah,
it's like ugh.
Yeah, like even Perrin's over the party. She's like,
I'm partied
dude,
out, man.
like
he slams Mackenzie.
Oh, I actually wrote this one down. He said it's tough squeezing a whole year of insincerity into 3 nights. So he's having to be fake for 3 nights. So even Perrin has to put on a show and put on a mask.
That little conversation between him and Mon in the car was really interesting. Is that you see them as a partnership there?
It felt the realist,
getting through
the realist that they've been with each other for a long time. There's sort of I mean, she's obviously
Yeah.
got a lot of the things other going on, but yeah, and then
I always question. I was going to say, why am I not hating on Perrin this season? Like,
He's
there's nothing that he's done this season has made me hate him. Whereas last season,
he
I'm
hasn't
like,
said anything
fuck this guy.
cringeworthy this season. He's been
Yeah,
he's been on his best behavior. He's like, and
yeah.
he's dressing really good. He looks good,
But the other thing is,
kids
like,
are out of the
obviously,
house,
there's
you
got to
know.
be.
He's just sort of kicking back, you know.
and his beard is like super chiseled. Oh, I'm digging Perrin further.
But it's obviously they've got to separate during this season. Like something's got to happen between the two. So maybe they're just.
I think he just walks. She
he
just
can't
walks
give up.
away.
He can't give up the insincere life, and she has to leave everything from.
Yeah, I think she just one day he just comes home and she's just gone, and he's just like, oh, all right, well, I guess what's on tally? Is there any food on the... Speaking of TV, there was like that weird little like morning TV show. It was almost like the Hunger Games. They had those ladies and they're like, wow, all the latest gossip that was going on, and it was all very like
From the Imperial Ball.
But it almost felt like holiday TV, like the Star Wars
Holiday special, yeah.
Like it was the same vibe. It was like, well, I guess this is just what Star Wars.
Same
TV
vibe as
is
the cooking show, I think, or the cooking.
Yeah, so it was just
whip,
like
whip, stir sort of thing.
Their Star Wars, Carl
like
Stefanovic and whoever else.
Yeah, a Saturday Night Live sketch of a morning TV show, you know, when the two women are drunk while they're presenting the show.
The bigger glasses of wine. The glasses of white wine.
Speaking of TV, the Bombers are only up by 1.
They're up by 7 at the moment, according to me, on the live score. They just kicked a goal, 55-48. But North Melbourne are coming back. That's okay. That doesn't matter. I'll watch the replay afterwards as long as we win. But thank you for the update, Matt.
So you won't watch?
No, well, we'll see. So Mon Mothma, like you said, she's sort of just business as usual at the moment. She doesn't have any sort of direct rebel activity going on, particularly in this arc. But we should cross back to Saw Gerrera, who is in, where is he, Mohl? Name drop, planet name drop.
Dakar. Dakar.
So he's in
the Dakar relic.
They've reused that set. They've gone back to the Air Force base or wherever it was in
Force Awakens.
In the Force
Awakens. Yeah.
Takodana.
No, Dakar.
I'm joking.
And I don't know. Saw Gerrera's been huffing paint or doing something. So it was a little bit vague on what this thing did, but it seemed like it was some sort of chemical weapon or something that they had. Or
it was a Rydonian bomb.
It for me, I thought it tapped into like gas lines or like fuel lines to tap into it to basically steal fuel.
Basically, that's it. Yeah, it was a particular combination of this tool that had to tap into the right fuel lines, and basically they're stealing fuel, and all the excess rhydonium or whatever is he's breathing it in or whatever.
Is it just like a giant one of those things where you get the hose in and you suck the hose
gas
end and like
get the petrol and
get the petrol in the jerry can and do that.
Things are so much simpler in Australia.
But then he started having flashbacks to, I think, the Clone Wars when he talked about he was a slave on Onderon or what? Onderon.
Yeah.
Where they were doing the similar thing with that sort of fuel. So
sorry, Mohl, he
was a bit. It was.
Oh, the Rhydonium sort of. You saw it in Mando. Remember that episode where he takes off the Mandalorian suit and they was the Rhydonium was in the truck, and you couldn't transport it. You couldn't make too much noise, or you couldn't bump too much, or it would explode.
The Bill Burr in it.
Yes, the Bill Burr episode. That's the resource that we're talking about now. And Rhydonium's always been like nuclear crazy.
Yeah, it was in the Clone Wars. Yeah, you have to be very careful with it. But, yeah.
Oh, righto. And obviously, it also tastes great, or whatever it is.
Yeah, because at first you thought. I mean, I thought Willman was making a bomb. That's what I first thought. It looked like a bomb. It looked like some sort of thing, but it was actually a tool to extract the fuel.
Yeah,
and to me, very much read like Willman was sort of on loan from Luthen, and Willman was very reluctant to talk about where he learnt these skills, who he's working for, all of that. So he's being very cagey, but yeah, it's sort of read that he's on loan, that he'd been negotiated.
Yeah, and then Saw Gerrera was basically just like, I'm just not going to let you leave now. So he was sort of there to teach the other guy. I didn't clock that he was part of the dipshit crew. I'd have to double check whether that was the case or was just another guy with a beard. He just seemed a little bit less like stupid than because he was a traitor in the end, wasn't he? Or was he just? Did he just say that?
Herman the German.
Did he just say that to keep Wilmot there?
No, it's Pluty was his name, right? Pluty.
Yeah.
Pluty.
Yeah. You can read Saw two ways. Like there is that implication that they planted that thing on Pluty to make him look like a traitor to justify the killing of him because they want to keep Wilmot. He's obviously the better skilled. Or Pluty was a traitor.
It seems like a lot to just because they had to they up and abandon the base. Like you feel like just to prove a point, you wouldn't go to all that trouble and leave the base. Just like he obviously thought that he'd sold them out on the location because they pull up stumps and leave the whole thing.
But Saw's paranoia has obviously gone up from what we saw in season 1. Like it's really ratcheted up since then. So yeah, like who knows? We saw now he's
a lost cause.
Is this Mohl? Is this the thing that's going to f him up? Just like take his leg or make him all messed up? Is huffing too much of this stuff or catching fire or something? Because he's sort of he gets all messed. By the time we get to Rogue One, he's hopping around on cyber.
He's got iron lung suit.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like it seems like it feels like he's going to huff too much of this, and it's going to stuff him up quite a lot.
And he kept on referring to his sister, like I think the fuel. Yeah, that was really confusing. His whole dialogue was really confusing to me. I need to watch it.
He's a great actor for Whitaker, but it was really like they
grade A weirdo today.
Yeah,
it was so. And is Wilmot dead? I don't understand. Like,
no, he's not.
Did
dead.
he die?
No, he's not dead. No,
and there was two tubes as well.
There's always been two
brothers.
tubes.
I'm
They're
seeing
brothers.
double 8 2 tubes.
What is that? What's his brother's name?
4 2 tubes.
Well, collectively they're 4 tubes, but I don't know.
Exactly.
They do have separate names, but they're pod brothers or something, and I can't, without looking it up, I can't remember their names at the moment. But yeah, at the end, Wilmot is alive. He's just feeling sick. Sorry?
The Yeti man, the Yeti dude. What's his name?
I think it starts with an M, but I could be wrong. Again, that's one I'd have to look in the visual dictionary.
It's like something like Morloff or something like that.
Something like that.
He's a cool looking dude. Is there any figures of him? That feels like a missed opportunity.
I don't know.
Turbo will probably send it to Jimmy for Christmas if there was.
It's a good one.
No, I sent him a dead Ramiro. He appreciated that.
I'll give you my address if you want to send some more toys and you're feeling generous, Turbo.
Well, there's the new Mendo figure now in his Glad rags, which we'll get to in a second. But so yeah, essentially Val and Cinta get the second team gets sent up to do the job because Cassian doesn't want to do it, and Val makes contact and Cinta's there as well, and they reconnect. They sort of say sorry for not being there, and I wish you were here, and I miss you, and it's all very sweet, and it's sort of nice to have them back together again, and they get in with the revolutionaries, and they plan the job down to the minute, and Val's take charge.
I do like that. Yeah, I do like that Val takes charge and is just straight off, no, you are following orders. All of you are just doing as you are told. If you can't do that, stop right now.
Yeah.
Like, get out. Yeah, we walk.
Yeah. And, of course, there's always one dumbass who doesn't listen to instructions. She says, only if Cinta and I get blasters. Stay out of this.
And the spider, he's the spider collector guy.
The world's most French man, because they hijack the car. They start lifting the weapons. It's all going reasonably smoothly. They're keeping people away, and then the big French dude wants to know what's going on, and that sort of young guy tells him to back off, and there's a scuffle, and a blaster goes off, and Cinta cops it, unfortunately. So we lose it, another one down.
We're losing it
you
alphabetically. B, now C. Oh, dear.
I mean, you could tell something was going to happen to either of them or both of them, or Mon Mothma showed concern for a cousin. She wanted to know about Vel. I always got that feeling that at least one of them's going to die.
Cinta said the fatal words of "I'll tell you the story after we've done this mission."
I'll be right.
Yeah,
back
that's
there.
right. Yeah.
See ya.
But then we do.
And we're never going to hear the story, are we?
No,
we're never going to hear the story.
It was quite, it was quite crushing. But it was. I mean, Val does give a Luthen level monologue in that truck to that young fellow as well. Like the acting was as good as anything that we've had in this show, where she's not crying, she's just like, you stupid, you got to live with this now. You didn't do what you were told. She's like, what are you crying for? All this stuff. She knows the sacrifices and things, and she's sort of hardened by it, but she just sort of channels it into this. Yeah. Amazing sort of moment.
What makes her, I mean, obviously she's devastated, but she's also angry because it was so pointless. Like, it's one thing to die on a mission and to die, for a reason.
Yeah.
But this was pointless. And I think that's something that Val is just going to carry with her. Like, the fury of that is something that she will carry with her, because she knows Cinta. She knows Cinta would have given her life for a reason, to make the bastards burn.
Yeah, she was supposed to go out and really making them hurt. She could have been on that.
Yeah.
She would have been on Scarif, or she would have been in the middle of the thing, and that's how she would have want to go out, not because some stupid kid can't take an order and not do what he's been told not to. And that's
you wonder whether. Sorry, you wonder whether what Vel said to him, like, basically said he's a, I think, whining, simpering, foolish kid or something like that. But you wonder if that's going to motivate him to actually, like, step up and do something, like, in subsequent episodes. Like, he may sacrifice himself for greater good or something. Like, you don't want to see him sort of just whimper away and go off selling spiders or whatever. But I'm just thinking, hopefully it means something. Hopefully it leads to something.
Yeah, and we know we're not done with Ghorman either. And it was sort of even surprising when we started this, because I don't know about you guys, I just assumed the Ghorman arc was the Ghorman arc with the Ghorman massacre in it, and that was what it was, and we would go there. But it feels like this is the sort of the through line, at least at the moment. I think, Catherine, you said the Ghorman massacre lines up with the 2 years before, if you go by the Rebels timeline.
Yeah, from memory, that's it. That the Ghorman massacre happens to BBY, so it probably is going to be the next arc. But who knows? Who knows?
But like, yeah, you're trying to think, what with a year jump, what's Ghorman going to look like? Obviously, there's going to be an Imperial base there. Maybe they're drilling or doing some mining or something like that. Maybe Ghorman is, like, completely screwed. Like, maybe this is, like, not demolished, but, like, falling apart and chaos. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's a year? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you kind of go, oh well, it didn't happen now, so you're sort of jumping that year ahead. So it's going to be curious to see what happens there. I'm just trying to think of where we're at now. Well, Mohl, we've got to go back to Bix, because she sort of picks herself off the floor, literally. She sort of has a moment of clarity, I think the idea of is a little bit, it's like,
getting her revenge is to sort of dispel the demons, and how did she get access to Gore so easily? That's my thing. Like, it seemed also a bit
Luthen.
Well, Luthen finds out.
Luthen gave them the intel
that they were there. Yeah, and I think that was the thing that basically motivated her to. He's like, "Hey, we found him. Like, let's get this."
Yeah, that was Lonnie. Lonnie told Luthen about Gorse.
Yeah, because remember, there was that signal that was being sent, and then the next thing we see Cassie and Bix doing is then killing Dr. Gorst.
Yeah.
So that signal was
Is he dead,
basically
or is he
losing.
just going to be
No, 'cause
damaged
they
beyond
blow
repair?
they blow
Well, they blew it up.
They put him on the
Yeah.
on the torture device and then blew the thing, and I think they gave him enough time to
Yeah.
know what it feels like. And
then they blew the building.
they did the
See,
coolant.
that's
So
what you see
I
behind
think I
it.
must have shut my laptop too quickly. I mean, I missed the last minute then.
Yeah, they blew after they walked out.
I only
There
just
was
saw
very
them
sort
walking.
of-
I think I rushed there because it was like 8:29, and then no one was on time, so I missed the important explosion. Damn it!
You'll have to jump back
So-
on after this and bring it up next week.
Okay, so last
as they
10
were
seconds.
walking out, and then blew up the place. It looked like Bix was wearing Cassian's jacket, that long coat
Yeah.
with the hood,
Yeah.
and the same one he was wearing as he walked out of Ferrix with the. I think it might have been episode 3 where they played that big kind of drum music as he walked out.
Yeah, and they were playing drum
Same
music again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bix
Yeah.
is,
But
Bix is
take a
in.
step back, and one thing that I haven't mentioned is throughout the whole every episode this season, I think, has had a cake reference. So even Dr. Gorst brings back his little takeaway box with a little cake in it. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh yeah,
he had a cake.
he put a yellow cake on the stand.
Yeah, and so like throughout the whole, and this is the thing, when I was at Celebration, I was talking to Blast Points guys, and they didn't want to tell me about all 12 episodes, but they kept on saying there's a through line with cake throughout all episodes. And if you look closer, like you've got the space fondue, you've got Edie eating the cake. There's cakes everywhere.
Cassian
like
has
at that
cake at the cafe when he gets to Ghorman.
There's a cake at the cafe. But where did
There's
he
cake
get
at the Krennic meeting.
Yeah, little cakes at the Krennic
Yep.
meeting. Yeah.
They're like caviar cakes. Well,
there's the cake. There was a really lingering scene of a cake, or it looked like a pastry, outdoor near that cafe in the sort of square or the circle, and I think there was sort of leftover bits of pastry on this cafe kind of thing. But yeah, ever since they said there's cakes everywhere, I just point out cake. It's cake. It's cake. Cake watch.
Well, the only thread we haven't really covered is the bug in that they planted in one of the antiquities that was in Australian father law, as I was vindicated by numerous friends of the show.
Yeah,
well done, Josh. He was
in this episode too. He was sounding pretty Australian. He's just like, "There's nothing bloody wrong with me, bloody antiques." Bloody
Thurbon loves I told you so post production.
I do. Yeah, no. So
you live for it. Yeah. Oh, by the way,
well, actually,
you were wrong, Mohl.
No, but so Skulden's obviously hosting this huge party, right? And they land on that big landing pad, and his house, or his skyscraper, if you want to call it, it kind of looks like something Tony Stark would have,
I thought it was
had
the Opera House
in the Avengers.
The Sith when I first saw it, I'm like, that's what that.
But I think it's his house. He's got all those antiquities and stuff there.
So he's sort of having a party, and the basic premise is that he's found out that one of his precious antiques that he's showing off as part of his collection for his party is a fake. And he's doing an audit of everything, and then the bug that Luthen had planted in there was going to get found out pretty quick if they didn't do something about it. So there was this sort of race against time to get in there and take it out. So then we basically have the convergence of Mon Mothma going there, and Luthen's going there, and some of the other characters, some of the ISB turn up, and Mendo's there, and Space Benjamin Bratt is there.
Yes,
not Space Jimmy Smits, who sadly couldn't make it.
It's good to see some Peruvians in Star Wars.
It's a representation.
I didn't know he was Peruvian.
Matters.
There you go.
He is. His mother is Peruvian. Like, actually, he's not Peruvian. His mom's Puerto Rican or something. No, he's definitely Peruvian. I can see you firing up the Google.
All right, well, that's great. Well, if you have to do that, if the character is important enough going forward, and I don't think they would have bothered recasting for a little chit chat on a platform walking in. Like, I think obviously Bail Organa has a role to play going forward, and that's why they've had to recast, because Jimmy Smits was not available. So it is what it is.
What's he doing?
I don't know. He's probably got television commitments, and it's a long way to go to England.
Drop everything and do your Star Wars, buddy.
Well, I'm trying to think, weren't they in a TV show together? Was it like LA Law or something like that?
No, they weren't in a show together. Jimmy
NYPD Blue.
Smix was on NYPD Blue, and Benjamin Bratt was on Law and Order.
Yeah, I keep thinking LA Law. I don't know why I'm thinking that. That was even further back.
That's Corbin
Anyway.
Burtson or whatever it is, LA Law, I think. But,
That's right, Corbin Burnson. Yeah. that's right.
God, there's a pull.
He may have been, but
Oh, look, I think they all cross over in different places. But yeah, look, it's Jimmy Smits has been a regular for the last 20 years in Star Wars in that role, so it is a little bit jarring to not have him there. But again, if Bail Organa is important, I mean,
Well, Jimmy Smits couldn't say 5 seconds on a landing pad.
There's more to it, because I think if that was the case, you'd just stick him on a green screen. But I feel like he's more involved going forward.
You'd hope so.
You'd like to think so.
If it's just this scene, then.
But he might have gone, I'm too big to come back for that, maybe.
I feel like he's enjoyed it. He's come back for every other time. Tony Gilroy was just like, we literally couldn't do it. Like, we had schedules.
We tried everything to make it happen.
We tried everything, we couldn't do it. So you feel like with the power of Star Wars, you could do it in front of a green screen and we'll comp you in. But I think it's not. There was more to it than that. So it will be a little bit weird, given that we do lead into Rogue One and there'll be a different Bail Organa, but we can suspend our disbelief. It doesn't matter.
Because it was Space Jimmy Smix in the prequels, in Kenobi, and in Rogue One, and then Benjamin Bratt in there. So, yeah.
So
I'm sure they're mates. So I'm sure it was he gave him his blessing or something.
Yeah. It's just, it is what it is. It be what it be. And we'll see if there's the big payoff. But effectively, there is the hoo-ha, the big shindig, the big party, and we get this sort of delicious scene of Mendo and Mon Mothma trading barbs in the gallery, while in the background they're trying to remove the bug out of the bottom of the antique, and it's proving to be quite the. Because it feels like she's kind of doing it, and
really in there.
But I don't think I actually saw. There isn't a moment where you actually see her get it out. They've got all the tension, and then they're kind of walking away, and she sort of flicks it up and gives it to him.
Yeah, and she's got the blood dripping as well. And I was always assuming that the blood drip on the floor, someone would see the blood underneath the. Yeah, but that never went anywhere.
And she pulls in, obviously, the man on the inside as well. So
Lonnie.
Lonnie.
Yeah. But there was a very, very nice little verbal sparring between Mon Mothma and Krennic as well.
I know the dynamic between them two is not friendly, and
there's some history there.
Yeah.
I think Krennic was saying like, "My rebel is your terrorist" or something like that.
Yeah, he's a bit just like, I've heard all this nonsense before. I've heard all your little excuses before, and all that sort of stuff. It means nothing. He's a man who feels like I'm building a Death Star. You don't even know about it. I'm going to blow you up the first chance I get.
Yeah. And I do like after the party when Luthen and Clay are walking away, Clay is like, "Yeah, maybe we should have killed Krennic," and they're just laughing about it.
I think Luthen says, what does he say? I think my face hurts from smiling. So Luthen's had to put on this facade and just like laugh and go, ho. He's like, my face hurts.
He doesn't really have a medium, does he? I mean, that when he was visiting Bix is the closest he gets to sort of either being or like at least he was slightly tempered. I mean, I suppose he's a little bit in the shop at the back. He's a little bit more level, but look, it continues to deliver. And I honestly don't know where we're gonna go next. How does this all feed in?
Can we just
go back to Ghorman?
How cool the X-wings and the shuttle flying through hyperspace was. That was about as much action as we got from a starship sort of entry point. That was cool. I enjoyed that.
That was cool. I don't know.
And Fondor, the Fondor.
It's just hard to sort of guess what happens next. Where do we go? We obviously jump forward a year, but do we?
I think it'd be 2 BBY.
Do we come back to Yavin? Is the Ghorman massacre like do we lead up to it and that's the finale? Do they start with that? Where are Cyril and Deidre at? Where are Bix and Cassian at? Are they all in? Like,
are the lights going to turn off again?
Is the lights going to turn off?
Is there going to be more cake? There has to be cake. There might be.
What's Tony Gilroy baking next week? I can't wait.
Yeah,
he's baking us a delicious,
literally
a great big thick huge cake that we've got to consume all
Dense
in one go.
brownie.
Yeah, just like
There's only one reason for the cake. It has to be like let them eat cake kind of.
I figured it was probably something along those lines. But we'll reconvene in a week's time, and we'll dissect this sucker and get into it. But thank you guys for giving up your Thursday nights. It's I know it's a tall order to get all this down. I know we want to consume it and watch as much as we can, but I know it does feel a little rushed. And hopefully over the next week or so, you can just sit back and take it in and relish it a little bit more. And we go again in a week.
I can't wait to see the explosion for the first time.
You're gonna go.
You spoiled it for me. I'm on a podcast being spoiled about this episode.
It was actually in the trailer.
It is in the trailer.
Yeah. In terms of trailers, I'm wondering what in the trailer we've seen that hasn't been shown yet. I haven't really done any analyzing
I don't
that.
think I'm going to go back now. I think I'd rather be surprised.
But it kind of feels like I didn't see any TV spots, so it kind of feels like we've seen most of the stuff in the trailer, I would say.
That first trailer feels so off on tone, even more so. You know what I mean? With the groovy song and stuff. Like, I know why they did it. To kind of get people
the Steve Earle song. Yeah.
But it feels so just not fitting of the, I know that Catherine, you sent me that one where someone had put some dramatic music over to it, and it felt a lot more like it fit in. But does anybody have anything they want to plug here while we're here? Everybody's just getting back to the real world, readjusting.
I mean, I could talk about Liverpool. I could plug Liverpool FC.
Yeah,
but,
that's all right.
My microphone explode.
By the time we come back next week, Arsenal will be knocked out of the Champions League anyway, and Chelsea will be in the Conference League final. And
winning the I'm not even going to say it.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Just to shout out the costume designers again, because Mon Mothma's outfits were again spectacular.
And Perrin's outfits, they get mentioned too.
Really emphasising the neckline.
You and the Mon Mothma's neck, you've got a weird fetish, Turbo.
No, see, I think it was Eric Struthers.
Seriously.
No, I think Eric Struthers talked about it first, and he sort of planted a.
Oh, we all know about that.
Seed in your dirty mind.
We all know about that, Struthers. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you there. We'll be here next week. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.
Liverpool.
Cool.